Hi, everybody. I just thought I would drop a quick announcement since we are working on our first assignment, our first discussion board, and then, of course, two responses to your classmates after you have accomplished your initial discussion board posting. As I've started to read through your initial posts and I'm responding to you, one of the things that I'm looking for is how well, as we're talking about this idea of taking ownership of our work, our academic journey, taking ownership of our own goals. Many of you were talking about taking ownership of the outcomes, I guess, of your learning opportunities. So you're taking ownership, you're taking responsibility, you are imposing your own sense of personal accountability for how well you perform, basically, for your grades. And so just kind of, I guess, tagging on to kind of that conversation, one of the things that I just wanted to pose to you all is that that we need to take ownership of the rubric, of our instructions for our assignments and our rubric. And so what I want you to consider is whether, as you see on the screen, I've got some blue arrows there. Those are your instructions for the first discussion board. Your initial post should, number one, first introduce yourself to the class by sharing a bit about yourself, and then it gives you some things you can include. Number two, you are to explain what you think it means to take ownership of your own personal success during this course. And then, of course, you can talk beyond the course and just in your goals in general. Number three, discuss this week's resources on taking ownership and consider the following, the A, B, and C there. And then number four, discuss your why. What motivates and drives you as a student? What are your academic or career goals? And then, of course, always that it's okay to not be sure about something. The honesty actually is helpful, as you really are journaling to yourself. I mean, you're talking to me, you're talking to your classmates, but really this is about your own self-exploration to kind of get you oriented, for a good path. So, as I was reading through some of the initial posts, what I'm finding is that not all four of these elements are necessarily there in your discussion. You have to treat each item in the instructions. Part of the grading, in other words, there are points that are being given to your discussion of each one of those items. So number one, number two, number three, and that means number three, A, B, and C, and then number four must all be there, and must be well developed. If you're just kind of giving an honorable mention, well, you kind of did it. But is that academic, what we call academic rigor? Is that college level work to just kind of make a mention if I'm discussing the why, my why, what motivates me and drives me as a student, and I say simply, I'm self-motivated because I like getting good grades. Okay, I did respond to number four. I did give a why, and I did say what motivates me as a student. But I have only given kind of a one-liner. And so now let's think about what kind of points would be given to you for a one-liner versus a full discussion of number four. I'm actually very much self-driven as a student. I like getting A's. I'm a perfectionist in my work, and it makes me feel good to know that I have turned in a good product and that my teacher, whoever it is who is assessing my product, is is happy with the product and even has been given more than what they've asked for, because I think that that shows an exceptional work ethic. You see, I just took number 4 and I expounded upon the why and what motivates me. In that example, I did not talk about my career goals or my academic goals, of course, but I'm just giving you an example of taking a response to something and illuminating upon that response, not just simply getting it done, right? Just giving a very short, undeveloped response. So I want to encourage you all, as you're working on these, what we call deliverables. Deliverables are anything that you turn in for grading, that you take that ownership of those instructions, which means that you hold yourself accountable to fully answering. Remember, you're talking to a professor. You're in an academic space, in an academic course, talking to an academic person. And so I am expecting academic engagement, rigor, deep thought. I'm expecting you to expound upon your ideas. I am not expecting you to give me basically a text message. Okay. So you need to make sure that you take ownership of the instructions and that you are fully answering number 1, number 2, number 3, that you do not disregard that A, B, and C, that I should see every aspect. How did they help you define the concept of taking ownership? How did they support what you knew about taking ownership? And identify examples of how you'll apply ownership in your academic journey. In other words, that A, B, and C, speaking to number 3, it should be very clear to me that you actually saw all of the videos that you were required to look at and that you read all of the reading that you were required to do. So I should see examples or you speaking to the content of both the videos and chapter 1, which in many cases I did not see. Okay. And then of course, dealing with that number 4 and every aspect of number 4, going into depth. Okay. So therefore the bullet, when you're in doubt, did I say enough? Normally we tell people don't overshare, right? That's we get on people for oversharing. This is the one moment when you are absolutely expected to overshare. So if you're not sure whether you have enough, feel free to overshare to make sure that you are fully treating each one of the elements or items of your instructions. So then again, for your response now, you weren't just responsible for initial posts, you are also responsible to respond to 2 of your classmates. There are instructions for that too. Number 1, how can you add to the conversation? How does this post help you to better understand what it means to take ownership? What can you learn from this perspective that is different from your own? In grading your responses to your classmates, I am looking for an in-depth response to both to number 1, number 2, and also number 3. It needs to be thorough. So, the rubric is always attached to your work, and the rubric is there for you to view so that there's no mystery around how you're being graded on your work. And so that is, of course, true for your discussion board. So you can see at the bottom where I have that big purple arrow, to complete this assignment, review the discussion rubric. So you ought to open your discussion rubric and take a look at what is my professor going to be looking for in order to maximize my grade. If I provide this, what kind of points am I going to get? Well, if I provide this, what kind of points am I going to get for that? Your discussion rubric tells you exactly what the the metrics are for arriving at your grade. Okay. And for taking ownership of your grade, you must take ownership of the rubric itself, and make sure that you are aligning your content, your responses, the development of your projects and assignments. That all needs to be lined up with what the rubric tells you that I am looking for. Okay?